Good morning, Rabbi Sai. How's everybody doing? Good morning. Rabbi Gary, is that you? Shkoyach, Rabbi Shua. Not necessary for now. But Shkoyach, just leave it over there. How's everybody doing? Today's shir is being sponsored by Tzvi and Hannah Fine. I don't know if you remember, just a few days ago, I read an email from Tzvi. He's our record holder for now, in terms of the email. He started the daf when he was 75 years old. Sponsored Le'ilu Nishmas, his mother, Gittel Bat Esther, Rachel, and Zev. Gittel Bat Esther, Rachel, and Zev. So, what I'm saying is, your mother's neshama has a tremendous aliyah. Your mother's neshama knows that you started the daf and that you're learning the daf and you're there every single day. 75 years, it's never too late, Rabbi say, never too late. And sponsored by Shlomi Rosenberg, Lilu Nishmas, Mors Chava Bas, Rabbi Yaakov Alevi, Oleh Shalom. Oh, we got Rabbi Yeshua here in the house. He could do the hanging up honors. Now I just want to read real quickly because this is Tzvi, and he's such a great guy, and he gave me a lot of chizik the other day. I'm going to read this. Gittel Cohen was born in Poland. When World War II broke out, she together with her mother and sister survived because they made their way to Siberia. After the war, they went to a DP camp in Germany. That's where my shver was born, actually. There she met Chaim Cohen. They married, and he went off to Argentina. Her older brother was already there from before the war. They had 2 children. Learned language, made life for themselves. After 15 years, they moved to the U.S. Once again, starting over. Again, working together, learning yet another language, making sure to keep Jewish traditions, and always having Israel on their mind. She was very proud of her grandchildren when they made Aliyah. Always wanted, and Tzvi finally made Aliyah just a number of years ago. Always wanted to know how they were doing. She has a daughter, 4 grandchildren, and 13 great-grandchildren living in Israel. If I'm not mistaken, Tzvi only made Aliyah after she was nifter. I think he was a great son that wouldn't move until after she was nifter. All right, so her neshama should have an Aliyah. Rabbi said, just one email. We have a lot to learn today. This is an email to get us thinking. And this comes from Naftali Rishel. When I heard Eli talk about increasing the Zoom listeners by 2 times or more, I thought of an idea. Now this idea is a little rough around the edges, but the point is for people to think. Just like we had Avrumi Leibovitz, who came up with a great idea for the Siyum, and we're going to implement it, Be'ezer Hashem. So maybe somebody out there could enhance this idea, make it better, come up with a new chap. So how do you hook someone? Well, no, sorry, where is he? Many people, if they tried the shir, would get hooked. So how do you hook someone? Perhaps a daf match. If someone pledges to come to the shir 5 days, we'll get someone else to chazir the daf lilu nishmas, any person they want. For the chazara, perhaps we can get members of the shir. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Research says that once a person gets a streak going, they'll not stop. Once you get a streak going, they will not stop. I'm going to get soon from David Hagal, my streak. I don't know what my streak is, but it's in the 200 range. Almost pushing 250. Be'ezer Hashem. All right, research says that once a person gets a streak going, they will not stop, especially since the shir is so addictive. Tell me about it. I'm addictive. Oh, Reb Naftali, I see you, Mamish, top guy right there. So Rabbi Say, listen. I appreciate all the coffee and I appreciate the cash I've been receiving lately, day after day. People sending envelopes. It's geschmack. Trust me. A guy sent me a fan, a cooling fan. Where is it? Somewhere around there. Oh, I know where it is. I got to show you this fan. If I'm ready here. I forgot who it is. Because I was complaining about the air conditioning, MDY, so he got me this high-tech device. It's Bluetooth with a whole... Anyway. T-shirts from Chutz La'aretz, from our good friend Rabbi Liebtag. Fine. But the biggest gift you could really give me, if you want to give me a gift, and you want to pay back MDY, is get one more person to join the daf. 2 more people will be even double the gift. What a gift. You'll be Zaycha, you'll increase Talmud Torah in the world. Everybody gains from it. Especially a guy that's not into the daf, doesn't know about the daf. Tell him about it. It doesn't even have to be my shir, anybody's shir. Get somebody to join the daf. But Rabbi say, try to come up with some sort of an idea, any idea, whether I will learn for somebody, l'schus somebody, an hour, bring somebody. I don't know what. Maybe the one that has the most, gets the most guys, will fly him in for a siyum or something. Come up with an idea. I know that one of your brains will come up with something geschmack. How do we increase the Zoom viewership? How do we increase Torah? We are holding Daf Kuf Chov Gimel Amud Beis. Today's Daf Kuf Chov Daled. 8 lines from the bottom. Eisvei Abaya. So, real quickly, as if these charts are going to help you chop what's going on here. We're talking about Kli Shemalachti Le'isur. You have something like a hammer. This row right over here, you have Abaya and Rava. We finished the sugi yesterday saying that according to Abaya, there's 2 machlokes, but according to Abaya, a Kli Shemalachti Le'isur, a hammer, you could only use on Shabbos if you needed L'tzorch Gufay. That means to do a malacha with the hammer that is mutter, to crack open a coconut, but not to move it if you need the place. Not L'tzorch Mekoymei. And Rav argues and says, Gufay and Mekoymei go together, and that's how we paskin, we're going to see later on in today's daf. A Kli Shemalachti Le'isur, a hammer, a drill, a cell phone, whatever. I don't know what a cell phone is, but let's say a cell phone is Kli Shemalachti Le'isur. You let it move it, even L'tzorch Mekoymei. Certainly if you need to do a malacha with it, but if it's sitting on your table, on your chair, on your bed, you're allowed to move it because I need that space. Mekoymei. Eisvei Abaya Medoicha. So we're going back to the mortar and pestle. Now, why do I say pestle? And yesterday I say pestle. Yesterday I said pestle because when I did some research, there was Yeshoim Lekan, Yeshoim Lekan. And we can make a whole thing. And I found websites that say pestle with a T, and the other guys say pestle. But since I got 2, not 1, 2 emails that say that it's pestle without a tof, pestle like pesi, so Memela today we're going to say pestle without a T. They're probably right. They probably did more research than I did. I even mentioned that there's a machloikis yesterday, but they paskin that's without a T. Okay. So the mortar and pestle, what is that? That's a kli.
You only got the emails because you mentioned there was a machloikis.
I didn't, but you noticed that I mentioned there's a machloikis. But they came out l'maskana hasugya. Even though there's a clip on YouTube with like famous actors saying pestle, but maybe they were making fun of them. I don't know. You know what? I didn't do enough research. I had a chashash that it's a silent. Okay. Baruch Hashem, the volume was back. I couldn't hear anybody yesterday. Somehow it came back today by itself without Gary even doing anything. So, what's a mortar? Mortar and pestle is a Kli Shemalachti Le'isur because I crush things with it on Shabbos. You're not allowed to crush, right? Shchikas Samamanim. The whole reason you're not allowed to do refu on Shabbos. Shchikas Samamanim. Great. So, and by the way, we're going to be using this a number of times. We had it yesterday, we have it today, we're going to have it again later. Medoicha, you have this mortar, im yesh bo shum, metalten loisa. The only way I can move this kli is if I have food in it. Like we said yesterday, a pot of soup is a Kli Shemalachti Le'isur, because most of the time you cook on it, but once in a while you have some food in it, so then I'm allowed to move it. So this is a problem according to Rava that says that Kli Shemalachti Le'isur, even though it's designed to do illegal activity on Shabbos, you're allowed to move it. L'tzorch gufay l'tzorch mekoymei. Now, what's Abai going to say? Abai's going to say, oh, he tried to move it, l'tzorch mekoymei. That's why it's asur. But what's Rav going to say? There's always a heter. L'tzorch gufay l'tzorch mekoymei. Oh, very easy teretz. Hachamay skinon mechamel etzel. You forgot there's another category called saving your item from damage, loss prevention. Loss prevention is also according to Rav also. I can't move my hammer if it's stuck in the Israeli sun. It's going to get down. I'm not going to bring it inside to save it. So that's what's going on here. That's why I can't move my meducha inside. Eisvei v'shavin, and this also we're going to have again, Shemkitze v'lev basar shatzal tatloi. This, the art scroll, for some reason, translates as a pestle, but it's an Eli, call it whatever you want. It's some sort of Clich that you crush things with, and you're crushing your meat with it. This is how you make chopped meat. Now, Pestle said you could do it on Yontif, but Pestle admit you cannot carry it on. After you're done doing it, you can't carry it anymore. Why not? It's a Clich but it should be Mortar to carry. Abai is going to answer that it's also l'tzorech mekaymai, and that's what we're talking about. Hachanami mechamel itself. Rav is going to answer. He's not moving it because he wants to do a malacha that's mutter. He's not moving because he wants to get it off his table. He's moving it because he wants to get it out of the sun. Aser. And this we mentioned yesterday. Right? So everything was mutter. You're allowed to carry pens. You're allowed to carry. Imagine a life where you're allowed to move tools and everything around. Comes Nechemia ben Chachalia, it says stop, but not just stop. Everything. Literally, almost everything. We said yesterday, there's 3 kalim that you're allowed to move, and food, and the basics. So Nehemiah, he's the one that started this whole business with muktzah. And as we had yesterday, at different stages, and I readjusted this. On top over here, I did Hetiru Aleph. It's not a gzeira. It was actually more of a heter than a gzeira. Seems like almost like they made it also. Made it heter. Okay. They kept on. They took everything away from us, and then slowly in stages gave us back stuff until what we have today, which is even muktzah things, real muktzah, hammers, drills. We're allowed to move it. According to Rava. I saw on Shabbos people are pressing their wine, their olives, and they're carrying, they're going Rosh Hashanah. What do? I'm going to make everything muktzah and say, stop. You have to think about it. You have to put your mask on. You have to be careful with what's going on. And once everybody realizes this corona, then slowly the social distancing, people are a lot more careful now. So I tell everybody, this muktzah, you can't touch anything, and therefore they're going to stop carrying things outside. If I can't even touch a pen, so certainly I can't start carrying a whole arema, a whole pile of my wheat outside somewhere. Omer Rebbe Lazar. Konin umaklois glustro umedoicha. We have 4 mishnayos, brisa, that talk about 4 different things. Medoicha is the one that we just mentioned, a mortar and pestle. All these, kulan koidem hataras kelim nishnu. These are pre-Nechemia ben Chachalia. What's going on here? Konim. So, if we're talking about the shulchan right over here, I don't know if you could see, but in between the breads, and we learned this extensively, in between the breads is a rod. The type of rod, not the type of, by the way, back in the day when we were learning menachas, there's an amazing place, I forgot what it's called, but the guy has a bakery. I went with Levi Friedman, day number 1. Levi Friedman, who's the father of Yaakov Friedman, who comes to the night shir. Anyway, Levi Friedman and I went to this place that the guy made menachas, and he actually made this bread. You see how this bread is folded over, lechem apanim and a mincha? It was amazing stuff. So in there, he also had a model shulchan, the size of the shulchan, with the rods, with everything. If you come to Eretz Yisrael or whatever, it's kedai to see how you make a mincha, all the ingredients, the whole thing. Akapanim, he says, the Gemara says, they had these rods in between, so the breads were resting on the rod. The rod looked like this, it was round, whatever it was, so that, as we'll see, that there shouldn't be any ovesh, how do you say, it shouldn't become moldy. Fine. Now these rods are obviously kli shemelachtam leheter. They're there for food. But it says, this nan, it says in the Mishnah, lo yisidur hakonem v'lo nitilosim deichas Shabbos. When do we change out the bread? We change out the bread on Shabbos. The bread lasts for 7 days. Nice, it was fresh, it was hot. But these rods, you can't get the bread out without moving the rod, and the rod is a kli shemelachtam leheter. You have to do that before Shabbos. Take the rods out on Friday. When do you put the rods back in? Motzei Shabbos. It's a Clich malachta leheter. Clich malachta heter. We're way past that. In the beginning, the first stages that they allowed Clich malachta heter legufay. It's already over here that you're allowed to use. This is 4 stages later. So it must be when they said that you cannot move these rods that are Clich malachta heter. Must be before Nehemiah ben Chachaliah came along. Maklois. This is not. Maklois dakin chalokim hayusham. So talking about the carbon Pesach, there was a nice picture in Yomi. I couldn't find it. Probably in Pesachim somewhere. You see what's going on here? So the idea is that you have to remove the hide of the carbon Pesach. So what you do is you hang it on a hook and you tear it off. Problem is there's tens of thousands of Jews with the carbon Pesach. There are not enough hooks. So they had these pieces of wood. You put it from shoulder to shoulder, and you hang your animal on it, just like that. And then you rip off it's a fun task. Says the Gemara, says in the Mishnah, you put it on the shoulders. Omer Belazar says Rebbe Elazar, but if it turns out if Erev Pesach is Shabbos, meniach yodoi daf kuf chav daled amud aleph meniach yodoi al kesef chaveroi. Instead of using wood, use your hands. Go like this, stand there, put your thing. The animal hangs on your hand, and I don't know. I guess with the other hand, you start ripping off the hide. Okay, but these are Clich malachtoi. Whatever it is, you're allowed to do it. Says the Gemara. So it must be before Nehemiah ben Chachaliah. Glustro. What's a glustro? This nan. Neger shesh beroish glustro. Over here. This is a bolt. And on top of it, it has a knob. And that's how they lock the door like that. Now, Neger shesh beroish glustro. If it has a knob on top. Now, if you look at this basically is the pestle. You could go like this and crush your food with it. It looks somewhat like this. You know what I'm saying? Like this guy. Okay. That's what Rashi says. You can use it for other stuff. Now I want to use it on another door on Shabbos. What do? I drag it. I don't lift it up. Because dragging is easier in terms of the Isser of Shabbos. It's called tiltul min hatzad. Okay, so I'm dragging it. I could carry it nicely in the chotzer. Now, what's the chotzer? We're going to talk about it in a second, but remember, you have a mavui, this guy, the street running down the center, and you have the chatzeros right over here. Everybody's house opens up into a chotzer, into a little bit of a front yard, and the front yard opens up to a mavui. So, now, even though this is a kli shemalachti laheter, I could use it for my door. I open, close it. So why can't I carry it normally? So this must be before Nehemiah ben Chachaliah. Medoicha. We said a medoicha is a mortar and a pestle, yeshur and pestle. This is a kli shemalachti iser. Nevertheless, I should be able to move it. L'tzorach gufa mikayim. All 4 of these could be after Nehemiah. Why can't I put it in the rods that are Clich malachta leheter on Shabbos, on the Shulchan? Mishum yapushe. I'm worried about mold. Says Rashi, I'm not soymech on a nace. Even though the whole lechem upon it was one big nace, it was hot for 7 days straight, it was fresh. But if I could do something about it and I could assist here, so do something. Put the rods in. But what's the problem? You're going to take it out Erev Shabbos, before Shabbos, and it's going to sit there for a few hours? No. I'm not worried it's going to get moldy over those few hours. What's the problem? That you have to wait until Motzei Shabbos to put the rods back in? Wait until Motzei Shabbos. You're not gaining much. Again, If you're not gaining, then there's no point to you, even on Clich heter, to be metaltalit. Okay. Maklois, what about the Korban Pesach? Again, why move a stick on Shabbos when I could just use my hand and go like this with my friend and we hold up the animal with our hands? That wasn't good. I looked in the thing and this looked like some sort of motion I shouldn't be doing. Okay. So we have maklois. Glustro. So what about this knob? Why do they make a big deal about the knob? Don't carry it. It says the Gemara Kedur Rabbi Yanai. Don't Rabbi Yanai. B'chotzer sheidim ureves askino. So we have to know the halacha real quickly. I'm not permitted to take something from my house into the chotzer, into these courtyards. I'm not allowed to. In the courtyard itself, I could go from my neighbor to the other neighbor, right? If you share courtyards, I could go from one to the other. But I cannot go from my house to the courtyard, to the chotzer, until I make an eruv. I'm a shat of all these courtyards, and my house becomes part of it, and then I could go into it. So there's no eruv. So now I have a problem. Could I go from my house into the courtyard, into the chotzer? So if you look closely at this picture, you'll see there's a red dotted line. Where's this red dotted line? By, what is this stair called again, Rabbi Isai? Somebody? The threshold. Threshold. So it's in the threshold. What is the threshold exactly? Is it part of the house? But look, the door is on the other side of the threshold. The door is inside. My house begins from the door. But no, maybe there's brick here and there's a threshold, so maybe my house is a part of this. So that's where the machlokes stands. If it's considered as part of my chotzer, so like we said before, you're allowed to be metaltal, you're allowed to carry from my chotzer to my neighbor's chotzer, all chatzeres are one. The issue is going past my door into my chotzer. Well, if the threshold is already outside, so I could pick up this bolt and walk around in my chotzer because it's already in the chotzer. Anything that's in the chotzer, I could carry no problem. The problem is getting it from my house into the chotzer. Well, it's already outside. So that's the machlokes. Rabbi Shua says, no, that's already considered inside my house. Inside my house, you can't do that. Now I'm taking something from a bayis to a chotzer. No, it has halachas outside. It's already in the chotzer. I could go from chotzer to chotzer, no problem. Medoicha. And what about a medoicha? This mortar. Reb Nechemia. So Reb Nechemia is the one we had yesterday. It's very stringent when it comes to muktzah. You could only move something for its exact designed purpose. A medoicha is there to crush. You're not crushing on Shabbos because that's usher. What do you want to do with it? You want to flip it over, sit on it. No good, says Reb Nechemia. So now, why can't you move a medoicha on Shabbos? If you know this answer, I give you 10,000 points. 4 reasons why you cannot move a medoicha on Shabbos. We just said one. Reb Nechemia says, it goes according to Reb Nechemia, that's why you can't move a medoicha, because Reb Nechemia is very strict with muktzah, that it has to be exactly for its purpose. But we have 3 other answers. You want to think about it? One of them is, because we're going in mechamal itself. We're going from the sun to the shade. That's awesome. The other one is that it goes according to Abaya. That we're doing mekaymai. L'tzorich mekaymai. And that is asur. And another pshat, and this is really worth 10,000 points. It's talking about before Nechemia ben Chachalia came along. So Mela, it was asur. It was before the stages of Heterim. It was in that. So when it says that a medoicha is asur, we have a brayso. It says medoicha asur l'taltal. We have 4 reasons why. Either because you were taking it from the sun to the shade, or you were moving it l'tzorich mekaymai, and Abaya holds l'tzorich mekaymai is asur, even Clich malach l'isur, or it's before Nechemia ben Chachalia, or we hold like Reb Nechemia, who says you're never allowed to move anything only for its designated purpose. Says the Mishnah. Kol hakelim nitolim l'tzorich shelo l'tzorich. I'm telling you, you should go over to your friend and say, I'll give you $1,000 if you know the answer. Nobody's going to know this. It's one of those tough ones. Because they're going to forget about Nehemiah ben Chachalia. They're going to forget about one. One out of the four they're going to forget. Says the Mishnah. Kol hakelim nitolim l'tzorich v'shelo l'tzorich. So this is very cryptic. All vessels, we're going to see that the Gemara is going to tell us that we're talking about Clich malachti leheter. All kelim that are malachti leheter, nitolim l'tzorich v'shelo l'tzorich. Whether you need it for the design purpose, not design purpose, we're going to have to see the Gemara. Says the Gemara, "My l'tzorich, my shelo l'tzorich." What does this mean? Omer Rabba, l'tzorich davar shemalachti leheter l'tzorich gufay. Ooh, says Rabba. What does it mean? L'tzorich. L'tzorich is a category called davar shemalachti leheter. Something, a cup, malachti leheter. I'm allowed to do this on Shabbos. And when can I use this? Unbelievable. Only, well, not only l'tzorich gufay for its design purpose. Shaloi l'tzorich, but the Mishnah says I could use it also shaloi l'tzorich. What is shaloi l'tzorich? Davar shemalachti leheter l'tzorich mekoymai. So he's being really, really machmer kind of. He's saying, look, the only time I'm allowed to use these kalim is if it's a Clich malachti leheter, like a chair. I'm allowed to sit on a chair. So if I need it to use it as a chair, great. And if I need to move it because it's in my way, great. Meaning everything else you can't move at all. V'davar shemalachti le'isur. Or, however, if it's a Clich malachti le'isur, l'tzorich gufay in, l'tzorich mekom eloi. So he's like a baya. That what? When it comes to Clich malachti le'isur, a hammer, I can move it, but only if I'm using it for a good purpose, but not because I need its place. Lo l'tzorich mekom eloi. Then the end of the Mishnah comes, Reb Nechemia, and he says, "Vafilu davar shemalachti leheter." Wait a minute, stop. A Clich malachti leheter, like a spoon, l'tzorich gufay in, l'tzorich mekom eloi. Even a Clich malachti leheter, even a spoon, a cup, a chair, I cannot move them just because I need their place, says Reb Nechemia, according to Rabbah. And we're going to have a big kasha on this. What's the kasha? How every single Shabbos at the meal, when you're done eating your child, you pick up the plate and you bring it back to the kitchen sink. How can you do that? Yes, it's a Clich malachti leheter, but you're not moving it for a purpose. You're moving it because you need the place. You want to clean up the table. That's the Gemara's question. According to this, I'm pointing it out here because we're going to have to go back. So I'm saying it right here so we remember. Again, Reb Nechemia says, Clich malachti leheter. It's completely mutter to use this kli. I can only use it l'tzorich gufay for its purpose, not l'tzorich mekoymai, not because I want the place. Amalei Rava, l'tzorich mekoymai shelo l'tzorich karislei. If I need the place, you're telling me that's not a purpose? Elo amar Rava nu pshat. L'tzorich davar shemalachti leheter. If it's a Clich malachti leheter, like a plate, bein l'tzorich gufay, bein l'tzorich mekoymai, I can move it around. Shaloi l'tzorich. What does that mean? Vafilu mecham l'tzel. I'm permitted, because the Mishnah says I'm allowed to do l'tzorich and lo l'tzorich. Well, but what does lo l'tzorich mean? Lo l'tzorich means the worst category, loss prevention, taking it out of the sun. Somebody wants to steal it, I'm scared somebody's going to take it, rip it off at night, move it into the shed. Even that's mutter because it's a Clich malachti leheter. But when it comes to Kli, malachti leheter, l'tzorich gufay, l'tzorich mekomi in, when it comes to a Clich malachti leheter, like a hammer. So again, Rava's lishitasoi, gufay mekomi go together, as we said yesterday. So it's mutter to move for a good reason. I need to crack open a nut. I need its place. That we said yesterday. To loss prevention, also. Comes Reb Nechemia running out of time here quickly because this massive daf. I'm trying. No, I'm moving quickly. Nothing to do with anything. And then he comes and says, listen, no, even the first category, the easy category, in, only if I have a good reason, even, okay. So again, Rava holds that if it's a Clich malachti leheter, a plate, I can move it out of the sun. And Reb Nechemia says, no, you cannot move it out of the sun. even if it's a Clich Malach Leheter. Yosef Rav Safra Rav Acha Bar Huruna, Vera Avuna Bar Chanina V'Yas V'Kamri. They all sat around. They asked, L'Rabba, like we said, we mentioned the question before. Aliba de Reb Nechemia. According to Reb Nechemia, it says that a Clich Malach Leheter is usher to move if I need the space. How do you move dirty dishes on Shabbos? Very simple. For another reason, as we had yesterday, graf shorei, a commode, a disgusting vessel that has feces in it. You're allowed to move it. There's nothing more muktzah than that. The answer is because it's disgusting, and I want to get it out of here. Like we said, the dead mouse we had 2 days ago. The mouse died on top of the spices. You pick it up by the tail on Shabbos, and you move it. That's the reason. The same question, how do I move these dishes? Our friends already said, a graf shorei, just like the graf shorei. A Clich Malach Leheter, you tell me. According to Rava, you're allowed to move a Clich Malach Leheter, a hammer, even if I need the space, let's say on the table. And we had this so we could actually move quickly. A mortar and a pestle. Rava, why can't I move a mortar? It's a Clich Malach Leheter, and I need it for its space. It's taking up space here. As we said before, you don't need the space. You're trying to move it out of the sun. Loss prevention is also. That's what Rava is saying. Eisvei. The same case as we had before, an Eli, a pestle that you chop meat with, you're not allowed to move it according to Beis Hillel. According to Rav, you say, I'm allowed to move it. No, you're not allowed to move it out of the sun. I have a wobbly pot, it's moving like this, so I take a piece of wood, like what do you call it? Carpenters know what I mean. It has an angle to it. A shim. You put it underneath, and now my pot doesn't move anymore. Okay. And this is on Yontif. I'm allowed to stand it up with a piece of wood. V'chein b'delis. Delis, we know what a shim is, and a door, you put a piece of wood so the door doesn't open up. V'ho, ask the Gemara, because the b'yomtav. Dovish malachtoi leheterhu. Alma. So I'm allowed to make a fire on Yontif. So this piece of wood is what? Clich malachtoi leheter. There's a heter here. Alma dovish malachtoi leheter. Ben litzor gufoi. Ben litzor mekaymoi. Osur. There's a kasha on Rava. Because it says, I cannot put this under my pot. I cannot keep the door open with it. Why not? It's a piece of wood. On Yontif, it's a Clich Malach Leheter. Why can't I use it for another malacha? Says the Gemara, nothing to do with Yontif. You're right. On Yontif is Clich Malach Leheter. But since on Shabbos, I cannot make a fire on Shabbos, so it's a Clich Malach Leheter on Shabbos, I make a Gzeira Shabbos to Yontif. That's the reason. Gzeira Yontif otu Shabbos. At the end of the Gemara, we're going to see this goes according to Bishamai. We don't pass it like this. V'chitema. Shabbos gufet ishteri. Wait a minute. Why is this also on Shabbos? So yes, it's a Clich Malach Leheter. But I'm allowed to use a Clich Malach Leheter on Shabbos if I need it for another purpose. I'm allowed to use a hammer on Shabbos to break open a coconut. Why can't I use a piece of wood to jar open my door? The Gemara comes here with a brand new concept. We actually had it a bunch of times, but a new concept in muktzah. A new type of muktzah called muktzah machmas gufay. Not Clich Malach Leheter l'tzorich gufay, but muktzah machmas gufay. It's so muktzah, it's muktzah because of itself. Like a piece of dirt, like a stone, and like this piece of wood that has it doesn't serve anything. Right now, this piece of wood is not a kli. Says Gemara, if it's a kli, great. You're not talking about you taking a wooden dish and throwing it into the fire. You're taking a wooden just a piece of broken wood. That's not a kli, and therefore it's muktzah machmas gufay. Says Gemara, but what's the connection? You're telling me the reason this piece of wood is muktzah on Yontif is because it's muktzah on Shabbos. And I have to be careful. Because it's muktzah on Shabbos, let's make it muktzah on Yontif. V'migas rinon, v'tnan, mashilim peiros derech haruba b'Yontif. Again, this is a loss prevention thing. You have a bunch of fruit and it's about to rain, it's going to ruin the fruit. So I could take, Leiv, I got your email, Yishkoyer, beautiful email. Maybe I'll read it tomorrow, Be'ezer Hashem. So I take the fruit and I put it right through the skylight. On Shabbos I cannot do that. On Yontif I could. Oh, but I have to be geyser, one for the other. Whatever's also on Shabbos should be also on Yontif. Now the Gemara just takes it to the other direction. But on the flip side, what's going on here? There's no difference between Shabbos and Yontif, only food. And now you're telling me there is a difference. Is there a difference? No difference. We have to understand the Skylight situation. The Sanya, we had this sugi just a number of days ago. It's usher to shecht a mother and her offspring on the same day. Shenachlu lebar on Yontif, they fell into a pit. What do? They're both screaming in pain. I can't take them out because they're muktzah. One of them is muktzah. One of them I can shecht, one of them I can't. I take out one. Rebbe Lezer is machmir. He says, leave one in there. Just feed him. Rabbi Shua Omer Malas Harishon Amanas Shachta. You make a trick, Harama, Venishoichtoi. You pretend you want one, and then you say, wait a minute, I want the other steak. Umaru Malas Hasheni. So, what's the connection? The connection is because Rabbi Shua is Mekel when it comes to Yontif. So if he's Mekel, maybe he's the one that says that you're allowed to put fruit through a skylight, and on Shabbos you can't. Says the Gemara, Mimai, what's the connection? In a pit, the reason why Rebbe Lezer is very machmir because I have a way not to be Michal Yontif. Just give the food to the animal. Just feed him while he's in the pit. He doesn't like it, too bad. You'll take him out after Yontif, but nothing's going to happen to him. He's not going to die. But over here by a skylight, there's no concept I could be Mefarnes. I could get if I don't put these fruits into my house, they're going to get ruined by the rain. Inami, or let's take it the reverse. Over there, I could do harama, I could do trickery. I could say I want one animal, then I take the other animal. But in the case of the skylight, not. It's machlokes b'shamay silam, we're going according to Beisil. That's why Beisil is going to say you're allowed to use the skylight on Yontif. This not. B'shamay oimrim, we're turning the daf. Sponsored by Fishel, the famous Fishel, official catering, So listen to this. According to Bishama, you're not allowed to carry on Yontif. We're so used to carrying on Yontif. You take your machzor to shul, Beisil say, Hoyel, mitoich. Enadam sharshira element toich simcha. You take, no shaykhs. That was from last night. You take if you could take food and carry it, you could take a machzor and carry it. Huh? What did you say, Avi? I didn't hear.
I said ADD.
It was just, it was trying to be funny for one person. That was it. It was stupid. So, according to Bishamai, I cannot even carry a lulav on Yontif. Forget about your machzor. A lulav that I need for shul, a katan, a sefer Torah, nothing. Beisil matirim. Oh, so these Beisil that say you're allowed to be you're allowed to carry on Yontif. So you're allowed to carry the food through the skylight. Says the Gemara, wait a minute. Bishama we're talking about carrying on Shabbos. They never spoke about touching muktzah on Shabbos. Says the Gemara, I mean, the whole reason why, the whole thing of making all things muktzah, and then it was all because they were carrying, right? They had these piles of hay that they were carrying. So tiltul muktzah is because of Eitzah, so it's one of the same. Okay, so skylight is Beis Hillel, and Memela, it's Mortar. When you say skylight is Asur, or other things, we're Medam, Shabbos, the Yontif, that goes according to Bishama. Says the Gemara, Rav Sover Lalahad the Rava. Rav holds like Rava, the Muktzah Machmas, Clichs Malachtil Isser. a hammer, a tool that typically is designed for asur malacha, you're allowed to use it l'tzarech gufay u'mekaymai. If I have a mutter malacha or I want to get it off the table, mutter. Why? The Amar Rav says, mar. Mar is a hoe, a shovel. Shaloi, so what's a shovel? Muktzah, it's a Clich malachta l'isur. Shaloi ganev, if I want to move it so it shouldn't be stolen, zel tiltal shaloi l'tzarech v'asur, then it's asur. So what does that mean to us? That means, loss prevention, also to move, but everything else, l'tzarech gufay, l'tzarech mekaymai, mutter. Taima shaloi ganev, aval l'tzarech gufay, l'tzarech mekaymai, mutter. Eini, wait a minute, that's not what Rav holds. Rav Kahana ikli lebei Rav. Rav Kahana shows up at Rav's house. V'amar, and Rav says, Aisulei shuso l'chahana. Now, whatever Rav says has a lot of deep meaning. And he said, bring Rav Kahana a trap. A trap is mukta. Now, there are no chairs available. And he sees Rav Kahana showing up, and he says, listen, get him something, get him a trap. So what was he trying to say? He was most likely trying to hint us, I'm allowed to use a trap for a chair. Why? Let's gufa in. And at the same time, he's trying to say, bring him a trap, meaning, he didn't say, go get him bring him a trap, because it's a Clich malachta, and I want to tell you that Clich malachta is only mutter if I have a good purpose for it, not if I need its place. So don't tell me that Rav holds that I'm allowed to move a Clich malachta even for its place. Says the Gemara, no, he was saying, move it away. And what's moving away? Not bring it here. Take it away. It's taking up too much space. I need Rav Kahana to sit down. Moving away is called l'tzarech mekaymai. And you see that you're allowed to do l'tzarech mekaymai. V'ibay saying another pshat is hasam mechamel etzel hava. It happens to be the trap was sitting in the sun. So Rav didn't want people to think that you're allowed to move a trap, which is a Clich malachta isur, from the sun into the shade. So what did he say? He said, move it from the sun to the shade because it's a tzarech gufay. Not because I'm trying to do a loss prevention, but because I actually need it for Rav Kahana. Rav Mori bar Rachel, the famous Mori bar Rachel, we always talk about him, that his father was a guy who kidnapped his mother, so he's called after his mother's name, Mori bar Rachel. He had a felt pillow that was sitting in the sun. Now, what is a pillow? Clich melachtoi le heter. Can I move it out of the sun? Loss prevention. Also, the Rava. What does Rava hold? Yes. I can move a Clich melachtoi le isur l'tzarech gufay mekaymai, but a Clich melachtoi heter even to out of the sun. So it comes to Rava. Amalei, Malta Deluniu, could I move it? Amalei, sorry, 100% mutter. Isle Achrina, but wait a minute, I have so many pillows at home. Chazal Archim. Now what should Rava tell him? Rava should tell him, so what if you have a lot of pillows? You're allowed to move it anyway. But Rava wanted to play with him. Rava wanted to say, okay, you know what? You want to play this game with me? You hold the saucer. You have guests. You could use it for Isle Nami Olarchim. I have enough pillows even for my guests. Omalei, you know what? I had enough of you. I chap already. You're coming to me, I'm Rava. You're telling me the svaras of Rabba. So go to Rabba. What do you want from me? You come to me, I hold this pillow's mutter. So therefore, Lekuli Almas Shari, the entire world could move this pillow, Lididach Asir, and for you it's Asir. Now let's see Rashi inside. Kid the Rabba Svirlach. So you hold like Rabbah that to go from the sun to the shade is asur on a Clich malachta leheter. Says Rashi, v'halacha kirova, and this is halacha we pass in today. You're allowed to move a pillow, a cup, a spoon from the sun into the shade on Shabbos, or to prevent, you're worried that somebody's going to steal your cups, your chairs. Somebody stole my 2 chairs outside. If anybody knows where they are, please let me know. So you're allowed to move it into a place to save it. So a Clich malachta, a hammer, a screwdriver on Shabbos, you're allowed to use them to open up a nut and to move it away because it's on my table, it's on my chair, it's on my bed. I'm allowed to move Clich malachta. However, mechamal itzel v'shelo yiganev. But something that's Clich Malach L'Isser, you have a fan outside, whatever it is, a bike. If it's a muktzah, you're not allowed to move it, that it shouldn't be stolen. Says the Gemara, Omar Rabbi Abba, Omar Rabbi Chia Barashi, we've never been so behind ever. But there's always Motzei Shabbos. Omar Rabbi Abba, Omar Rabbi Chia Barashi, Omar Rav. Mechabdeis shel Meleisa. A sweeper, to sweep off your table, made out of cloth. Mutal Atadl M'Shabbos, it's not muktzah, it's Kli, Shemalach L'Heter. Aval Shetmara, but a regular broom, loy. It's a Kli Shemalach L'Heter. Why? Because you mashve gumais. In those days, the floors were made out of dirt. You mashve gumais. Says the Gemara, what's the situation? If you're telling me that I need the place, or I am doing another melacha, I need to beat somebody up with the broom. It's an important thing. What? So you're not allowed to use a regular broom? If you have a good tzarech or the makayim, you're allowed to move a Clich Malach L'Isser. Ela mechamal itself, loss prevention, that's awesome. What? So what does Rebbe Elazar hold? That the one that's the regular broom, that's a Clich Malach L'Isser, he's going to hold, you're allowed to move for loss prevention? No one in the world holds that you're allowed to move a Clich Malach L'Isser for loss prevention. Says the Gemara, La'ila mechamal itself. We're talking about loss prevention. Ema v'chein omer Rebbe Elazar. Not he's mechulek, that you could move it out. No, you can't move it. You can't move mechamal itself. Bottom line is, the Shulchan Aruch, the Mechaber says that a broom is a Clich Malach L'Isser. You're not allowed to move it on Shabbos. The Ramah, he says it's a Clich Malach L'Heter and you're allowed to. The Ramah says it's asur, but the Bir Halacha says that our houses that have tiles, there's no dirt, there's no mashve gumais, as we had in the other sugya. Memela, in our days, it's a Clich Malach L'Heter, and you're allowed to move a broom on Shabbos, says the Bir Halacha. What do? A few more minutes. Let's do a few more minutes. Whoever wants to go could go and look it up on YouTube. All vessels that you're allowed to move on Shabbos, if it breaks into pieces, you're allowed to carry these pieces. Ubelvad, provided you oisim ein melacha. So if you could do any kind of melacha with it. So let's say you have a giant bowl that breaks. So I could scrape something with it, whatever, I could do something. I don't necessarily have to put things in it like you used to do, any melacha. Shivrei areva lechasis ben pin chaves. So we have a picture for this. This is a broken shard over here. I cover this bottle. A broken piece of glass, I cover this thing over here. It's flat. But that's not what it was designed to do. But that's okay, so I can move it. Shivrei areva lechasis ben pin chaves. Shivrei tzchuch lechasis ben pin pach. It's not true. It has to be able to do something similar to what it was designed for. So therefore, Shivrei Areva, broken pieces of a bowl, mikvah, to put some food in there, porridge or whatever. Why do you have a glass vessel? To put oil in it. Omar, Okay, fine. We'll stop here. We don't have a choice because it's kind of a long sugya. We will have to have siyata d'shmaya, and you know what? Tomorrow I'll just start a couple minutes earlier with the emails, so that at 7:15 we can go straight into the sugya. We'll have a couple more minutes, and Be'ezer Hashem we will catch up. By Sunday we'll be where we need to be. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day. Noam, a shtickle tehillim, please.
Adonai, Adonai, shema b'kuli tenez nachakashuvah slitot Adonai.
Adonai shema b'kuli tenez nachakashuvah slitot Adonai.
Im Adonai stifaya Adonai niyamai. Im chas lichol leman tivorei. V'yisei Adonai kivson nafshi v'libro chalti.
V'yisei Adonai kivson nafshi v'libro chalti.
Shila Adonai mishomrim laboiker, shomrim laboiker.
Nafshi Adonai.
Yachal Yisrael Adonai, Kim Adonai Chesed v'Albei, Marichadu.
Yisrael Adonai Chesed v'Albei.
Yisrael Mikol V'Nisov.
Yisrael Mikol V'Nisov. Chenek of Yisrael. Hashem Yisrael B'Shemi. Oim Dem B'Mei.
Oim Dem B'Mei. Oim Dem B'Mei. Some Bachatella, Shibla, Hashapella, Marco, even a man.
Have a good day.
Shkoyach, everybody. Shkoyach. Thank you. Thank you.